Imagine waking up every morning with a silent enemy already inside your body. Not outside, not in your environment, but inside your nervous system, inside your bloodstream, inside the quiet spaces of your mind. An enemy that slowly tightens your chest, clouds your thoughts, weakens your immune system, and drains the very life force out of you. And the most dangerous part, most people don't even recognize it. They call it just stress. But what if I told you that what we casually call stress is not simply a busy schedule, a difficult boss, or financial pressure? What if the real story is far more disturbing? What if stress is quietly reshaping your brain, weakening your body, and determining how long you will live? Let me ask you something. Why do so many people today feel constantly exhausted even after a full night of sleep? Why are anxiety, depression, heart disease, autoimmune disorders, and chronic fatigue rising at an alarming rate across the world? Why do some people seem strong on the outside, successful, responsible, dependable, yet their bodies suddenly collapse with illness? Is it coincidence? Or is something deeper happening beneath the surface? You see, the human body was never designed to live in a constant state of threat. Thousands of years ago, stress had a clear purpose. A predator appeared. Your heart raced. Your muscles tightened. Adrenaline surged through your bloodstream, and within minutes, the danger was over. Your nervous system returned to balance. Your body recovered. But today, the predator is different. It's the pressure to succeed, the fear of disappointing others, the silent demand to always be strong, always be productive, always be in control. It's the emails, the deadlines, the financial worries, the emotional wounds you were never allowed to express. And unlike the ancient predator, these threats never leave. They follow you into your workplace. They follow you into your home. They even follow you into your sleep. So the alarm system inside your body never turns off. Your heart keeps racing. Your cortisol levels stay elevated. Your immune system becomes confused and exhausted. Your brain, the very organ responsible for clarity and peace, begins to shrink under the weight of chronic stress. And here is the tragedy. Many people believe stress is simply the price of being responsible. They wear it like a badge of honor. I'm busy. I'm overwhelmed. I'm under pressure. But the body keeps score. It remembers every moment you ignored your emotional needs. Every time you said yes when your heart wanted to say no. Every time you swallowed anger, suppressed grief, or silenced your truth just to keep the peace. And slowly, quietly, the body begins to speak the language the mind refused to hear. Through anxiety, through insomnia, through chronic fatigue, through inflammation, through disease. So the real question we must ask ourselves is not, why am I stressed? The real question is much deeper. What kind of life forces a human being to live in constant survival mode? What kind of world rewards self-sacrifice but punishes self-awareness? And perhaps the most important question of all, what parts of yourself have you been forced to abandon just to survive? Because stress, in its deepest form, is not only about workload. It is about disconnection. Disconnection from your emotions. Disconnection from your needs. Disconnection from your authentic self. And the moment a human being loses that connection, the nervous system begins to suffer. The body begins to carry a burden it was never meant to carry. But here is the powerful truth. The same body that breaks down under chronic stress also holds an extraordinary capacity to heal. The nervous system can relearn safety. The mind can rediscover clarity. And the heart can reconnect with the parts of itself that were once silenced. But that journey begins with one radical act of awareness. Seeing stress not as a normal part of life, but as a signal that something within you is asking to be heard. A signal that your body is asking for a different way of living. And once you truly understand that message, your entire relationship with stress, and with your life, will never be the same again. You see, when we speak about stress, most people imagine something temporary, a difficult week at work, a tense conversation, a financial worry that will eventually pass. They think of stress as pressure, uncomfortable, yes, but manageable, something you simply push through. But the human body does not experience stress the way the mind explains it. The body experiences stress as danger, and danger triggers one of the most powerful biological systems ever designed for survival. The alarm system. Inside your brain there is a small structure whose job is to scan the world for threats. It is ancient, primal, deeply wired into your nervous system, and when it detects danger, it does not ask philosophical questions. It does not analyze your situation. It reacts instantly. Your heart rate accelerates. Your breathing becomes shallow and rapid. Your muscles tighten. Your bloodstream floods with stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, preparing you for one simple purpose: survival. In a true emergency, this system is brilliant. Imagine our ancestors thousands of years ago. A sudden rustle in the bushes, a predator emerging from the darkness. In that moment, the body had to react instantly. No hesitation, no reflection, just pure survival. Run, fight, escape. And once the danger was gone, something remarkable happened. The nervous system settled, the heart slowed, the body returned to balance. The alarm turned off. But now look at the modern world. Look at the lives many people live today. The alarm is still going off, but the danger never ends. You wake up and the first thing you feel is pressure. Messages waiting, deadlines approaching, expectations hanging over your head before the day has even begun. Your mind begins racing before your feet even touch the floor. Your nervous system reacts the same way it would if a predator were chasing you through the forest. But there is no escape. You carry that tension into traffic, into meetings, into difficult relationships, into financial worries, into the silent fear of not being good enough. And so the alarm keeps ringing, hour after hour, day after day, year after year. Now here is where it becomes dangerous. The human body was never designed to live in permanent emergency mode. Those stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, they are powerful chemicals. In short bursts, they help you survive. But when they flood the body continuously, they begin to destroy the very systems meant to protect you. Your immune system weakens. Your digestion becomes disrupted. Your sleep becomes restless and shallow. Your brain, the organ responsible for memory, emotional regulation, and clear thinking, begins to suffer under the constant biochemical pressure. Have you ever noticed how difficult it becomes to concentrate when you are overwhelmed? How your patience disappears faster? How your body feels exhausted even when you have done nothing physically demanding? That is not weakness. That is biology. Your nervous system is screaming for relief, but many people ignore those signals. They tell themselves, it's just life. This is normal. I just need to work harder. So they push further. They drink more coffee. They sleep less. They suppress the anxiety, the fatigue, the headaches, the tightness in the chest. But the body keeps sending signals, because the body does not lie. It cannot pretend everything is fine when it is not. And when those signals continue to be ignored, the body begins to escalate its warnings. Chronic inflammation begins to spread through the system. Blood pressure rises. The immune system, exhausted and confused, may begin attacking the body itself. What we call disease is often not the body malfunctioning. It is the body responding. Responding to years of silent pressure. Responding to a nervous system trapped in a constant state of threat. Think about how many people you know who appear strong, responsible, reliable, the ones who carry everyone else's burdens without complaint. The ones who never say no. The ones who suppress their emotions because they believe they must be strong for everyone else. On the outside they look successful, but inside their nervous system is under siege. Their alarm system has been ringing for years. And one day the body simply cannot carry the weight any longer. Suddenly there is burnout, panic attacks, chronic illness, or a deep emotional collapse that no one saw coming. And people ask, how did this happen? But the body had been whispering for years through fatigue, through tension, through anxiety, through sleepless nights. The whispers were simply ignored. So let me ask you something. Right now, in this moment, what signals is your body sending you? What tension have you normalized? What exhaustion have you accepted as just part of life? How long has your nervous system been living with the alarm bell ringing in the background? Because once you begin to see stress not as a minor inconvenience, but as a biological emergency that never ends, something profound begins to change in the way you understand your life. When that understanding deepens, another uncomfortable truth begins to reveal itself, that the most damaging stress in our lives often does not come from what we do, but from what we feel forced to suppress every single day. And this brings us to something even more profound, something most people never stop to question. Stress is not only about what happens to you. It is about what happens that's inside you when your emotions have no place to go, because human beings are not machines designed only to perform tasks and meet expectations. We are emotional organisms. Every experience we live through leaves an imprint on the nervous system. Every feeling we suppress leaves a mark somewhere within the body. Yet from a very young age, many of us learn a dangerous lesson. We learn that some emotions are unacceptable. Anger is bad. A crying is weak. A fear means you are not strong enough. So the child adapts. Imagine a small child standing in a room where the people they depend on for safety cannot tolerate certain emotions. Maybe the parents are overwhelmed. Maybe they are stressed themselves. Maybe they react with criticism, punishment, or cold silence when the child expresses pain. The child faces an impossible choice: express the emotion and risk losing connection, or suppress the emotion and maintain love and belonging. And every child chooses connection, so the child learns to swallow the anger, to hide the sadness, to silence the fear, to smile when they are hurting, to say, "I'm fine," when inside they feel completely alone. And that adaptation helps the child survive emotionally. But the body never forgets what the mind pushes away, because emotions are not just thoughts. They are biological events. When you feel anger, your body releases chemicals, your muscles tighten, your heart rate changes. When you feel grief, your nervous system shifts. When you feel fear, your entire physiology prepares for protection. These emotional energies are meant to move through the body, to be expressed, to rise and fall like waves. But when expression becomes dangerous, the body has to find another solution. It stores them. Think about how many people today are walking through life carrying decades of unspoken emotions. Anger that was never allowed to be expressed. Grief that was never witnessed. Fear that was never comforted. Pain that was never acknowledged. On the outside they appear functional, responsible, capable. They build careers, raise families, fulfill obligations. But inside their bodies, those emotional experiences remain unfinished. Imagine carrying invisible weights inside your nervous system every single day. Weights made of suppressed anger, unprocessed grief, silent fear. Now add the pressures of adulthood, responsibilities, relationships, financial stress, social expectations, and the body begins to buckle under the accumulated burden. Have you ever noticed how certain physical illnesses seem to appear in people who have spent their entire lives being strong? For everyone else, the ones who never complain, the ones who always take care of others, the ones who push their own needs aside, they often say things like, "I don't understand. I've always been responsible. I've always done the right thing." But responsibility without emotional truth can become a form of self-betrayal, and the body cannot sustain self-betrayal forever. So eventually the body begins to speak. Sometimes it speaks through chronic pain. Sometimes through autoimmune conditions where the immune system begins attacking the body itself. Sometimes through anxiety that seems to appear without explanation. Sometimes through deep exhaustion that no amount of sleep can repair. The medical world often searches for physical explanations alone, and those explanations are important. But there is another dimension that we must begin to acknowledge. The emotional life of a human being is inseparable from the physical body. Your immune system listens to your emotional world. Your nervous system responds to your psychological reality. Your organs are not isolated mechanical parts. They are part of a living, feeling organism. So when someone spends decades suppressing who they truly are, suppressing their emotions, suppressing their authentic responses to life, the body carries that cost. Think about your own life for a moment. How many times have you swallowed words that needed to be spoken? How many times have you smiled when your heart was breaking? How many times have you told yourself to be strong instead of allowing yourself to feel? Where in your body do those experiences live today? Is it the tightness in your shoulders, the heaviness in your chest, the constant fatigue that seems to follow you? Because the truth is this: the body keeps a record of everything the mind refuses to acknowledge. Every suppressed emotion becomes part of the internal stress landscape. Every moment of emotional silence adds another layer of pressure to the nervous system. And eventually the body asks the question the mind has avoided for years. How long can a human being live disconnected from their own emotional truth? How long can a heart continue carrying feelings that were never allowed to be expressed? Because when those emotional signals are repeatedly ignored, the stress response we talked about earlier does not simply come from external pressures anymore. It begins to emerge from within the very structure of your emotional life itself. And when that emotional pressure begins to build inside a human being, something else quietly begins to shape their life. A pattern, a survival pattern that many people mistake for strength. From the outside, these individuals appear extraordinary. They are dependable, responsible, always there when someone needs help. They rarely complain. They rarely create conflict. They are the ones people trust, the ones people lean on, the ones who seem capable of carrying the world on their shoulders. But beneath that appearance of strength lies a psychological adaptation that began much earlier in life. Because for many people, love was never unconditional. Love was connected to behavior. Approval was connected to obedience. Safety was connected to being good, being helpful, being quiet, being easy to manage. So the child learns a powerful and dangerous lesson. My value depends on how well I meet the needs of others. And from that moment forward, the nervous system begins organizing itself around one silent mission: do not disappoint. Do not upset anyone. Do not create conflict. Be useful, be agreeable, be strong. Be everything everyone else needs you to be. Now imagine carrying that mission into adulthood. Imagine living a life where every decision passes through an invisible filter. Will this upset someone? Will this make them reject me? Will this make me look selfish? So you say yes when every part of your body is screaming no. You take on responsibilities you never had the energy for. You absorb other people's problems as if they are your own. You listen to everyone else's pain while quietly bearing your own, and slowly something tragic begins to happen. You begin abandoning yourself. Not intentionally, not consciously, but piece by piece. Your needs become negotiable, your boundaries disappear, your emotions become secondary to the comfort of others. And because the world rewards this behavior, the pattern becomes even stronger. People praise you for being reliable, for being generous, for being selfless. But very few people ever ask what it costs you. What it costs your nervous system to live in constant self-suppression. Because every time you silence your authentic response to life, your body experiences it as stress. Every time you override your own needs, your nervous system registers danger. And every time you betray your own truth, in order to maintain connection with others, the internal alarm system we talked about earlier activates once again. Think about how many people you know who seem endlessly strong for others, yet privately struggle with exhaustion, anxiety, or unexplained illness. The pattern is not coincidence. It is biology responding to chronic self-abandonment. You see, the body does not measure stress by how busy your schedule is. The body measures stress by how unsafe your nervous system feels. And nothing is more stressful for a human being than living a life where their authentic self is not allowed to exist. Where their anger must be hidden, where their needs must be minimized, where their truth must be filtered through the comfort of others. Imagine living decades of your life like that. Imagine the energy it takes to maintain that mask every single day, smiling when you feel overwhelmed, agreeing when you feel resistance, helping when you are already depleted, being strong while your body quietly absorbs the cost. And then one day, something begins to break. Maybe it starts as exhaustion you cannot shake. Maybe it appears as anxiety that seems to come out of nowhere. Maybe it shows up as illness that doctors struggle to fully explain. And people around you say things like, "But you're the strong one. You always handle everything. You're the last person I expected this to happen to." But the body knew. The body had been carrying the weight of that invisible pattern for years. Because real strength was never meant to mean self-erasure. Real strength was never meant to mean sacrificing your nervous system so others can remain comfortable. Real strength is something entirely different. It is the courage to remain connected to yourself, even when the world expects you to disconnect. It is the courage to say no when your body says no. It is the courage to feel your emotions instead of burying them. It is the courage to live with authenticity, even when that authenticity challenges the expectations of others. And this is where a profound realization begins to emerge. The stress that destroys so many lives is not always created by the world around us. Often, it is created by the distance between who we truly are and who we have learned we must pretend to be in order to survive. And the moment a human being begins to close that distance, something extraordinary begins to shift inside the nervous system. Because for the first time in a very long time, the body begins to experience something it has been waiting for all along: safety.